What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, most of the Week 18 games have been concluded at this point, and the Colts, after everything that has happened, the Colts have now moved up in the draft order and are now sitting at number 4. After their loss to the Texans, they stayed at number 5. And what we were talking about earlier in the week, two things had to happen in order for Indianapolis to have a chance to move up. You had to either have Arizona win or you needed Denver to win. Well, in a stunning win, the Denver Broncos pulled off the win against the LA Chargers and upset them and moved ahead of Indianapolis and moved Indianapolis up to number 4. Arizona got blown out by San Fran in the second half and was unable to secure a win there. But they are sitting at number 4 in the draft order. And as I mentioned before, Chicago is now sitting at number 1 after the Houston win against Indianapolis today. Cody, what's your thoughts on Indianapolis securing the number 4 pick in the draft?
Not completely perfect, but just about as good of a day as you could have asked, right, for the Colts in their draft position. Apologies, guys. I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold, as I think a lot of people are right now. So my voice isn't quite where it usually is. That's why. But yeah, I mean, first off, the fact that Houston now is not at number 1 is huge, right? So that means the Colts could theoretically trade up with Chicago, who will not be taking a quarterback, and have their pick of whoever they want, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at the other teams that are needing quarterbacks, the Colts are the closest one, right? Outside of Houston, maybe, to going and getting a guy and trading up for number 1. So with that being said, that's great. That's great for the Colts that now they could potentially leapfrog Houston and get the best quarterback they think that's on the board, whether that's Bryce Young, whether that's CJ Stroud, whether that's another quarterback that they feel like taking. Really, the Colts are going to have their pick, Derek, of potentially the top couple guys here. And that's great because even with Arizona losing, I mean, I think if I was preferring, Denver/Seattle, who would be getting that pick, or Arizona, I'd probably want Arizona to stay up there because Seattle, while Geno Smith has been fine, he's been good at points. I mean, I still think he's, at the end of the day, he's in his 30s. And Seattle could realistically be looking to trade, and get a quarterback. I really think that could be a possibility. With Arizona, I just have a hard time seeing them give up on Kyler Murray just because he's shown some flashes. They took him, first overall a number of years ago. And I just think maybe they'll try again at least one more. I think they're more likely to try again with Kyler Murray than maybe Seattle is to go all in on Geno, if that makes sense at all. So for me, I think that's the perfect scenario for the Colts. They're inside the top 5. Fortunately, they didn't screw themselves over by, kind of falling into a win against the Houston Texans. As they've done all season, Derek, they found a way to lose. But this is a great reason to celebrate because really the Colts are going to have, if not the best quarterback, the second potentially the second best quarterback if no teams trade out, which is, it's always a possibility teams would trade out. But number 4 overall, can't get much better than that, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of teams. I mean, there's not a team that is behind Indianapolis that I could sit here and say absolutely are going to take one. Although every single one of them, you could have a case for why they might, though. Carolina being one of them at number 9, I think actually is a team that will most likely attempt to try to trade up and do that as well. So there are a few teams here, man, and that's the one thing you have to be concerned of is even with the Colts at number 4, you have to be concerned of that matter because, like you said, Houston is going to take one way or the other. They're not going to move from the top 2 picks. So they're going to get their pick of, Will Levis, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, whoever they find is the best option for them going forward, right? They're going to do that. The only way that Arizona would do anything with a quarterback in this draft is if they traded away Kyler Murray in the offseason. And it'd be very hard for me to think that there's a team out there that will, that there's a team out there like that are going to take Kyler Murray after the season that he had, especially coming off of the injury and everything else, the dismantle in there. I don't know if anyone's going to take that contract on. And but the only problem also with that is somebody might try to trade up with Arizona. If Arizona's not needing a quarterback, then, if they trade back a few picks, then they can still get their plethora of offensive line, defensive players. Like you said, Chicago is not in the market for a quarterback. Chicago is in the market for practically every other position, right? So they need offensive line. They need wide receiver. They need defensive linemen. They need everything other than the quarterback position. And the Indianapolis Colts being at number 4 is a prime trade back position for the Chicago Bears. Another reason why they would have the leverage over a lot of other teams, the guy who's coaching that team, Matt Eberflus, just came from Indianapolis. He likes to take some of our players, man. He likes to take some of our picks. There's business that's exchanged between these programs, and Chicago's front office has a lot of experience with Indy's front office. So there's a lot of connection there. And of course, if Chicago were to trade back with Indianapolis and say nobody else does anything, then Indianapolis takes a quarterback. Houston's going to take a quarterback. And Arizona, if they went defense, then if you're Chicago, you just take the next best defensive player. There's 2-star defensive players in this draft that everyone's going for right off the rip, and that's Jalen Carter and Will Anderson. Either one of those guys, Chicago could jump it right there and then and make that work for them. And hell, even if they wanted to, maybe they tell Arizona, hey, let's trade spots here real quick. Let me get into number 3, and then Chicago can give up one of our first rounders or whatever we give them, can give them that exchange, whatever they want. But right now, Indianapolis at number 4 is definitely better than Indianapolis at 5. It was certainly much better than Indianapolis at 6. Every spot you move up on this draft order is just another great opportunity for you to make something happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And it's great. It's great for where the Colts want to go because, like a team, like you put yourself in Chicago's shoes. They don't want to trade down to potentially number 9 and miss out on one of these stud defensive players, right? They want to move. If they're going to move, they only want to move down a couple spots and get a lot of picks. Kind of like what we did a number of years ago in 2018, actually, with the Jets when they were desperate for the quarterback.
Yeah.
We were able to trade, down 3 picks, still get our guy, and they were able to go get their quarterback. I feel like that could be a similar scenario here to what the Colts maybe will try to do with the Chicago Bears. And so, yeah, I mean, it's great for the Colts because, we were all wondering, right? Is this Colts team gonna, unfortunately, when it comes to draft order, just kind of fall into a couple more wins? And I'll give them credit. I'll give Jeff Saturday credit. He is the master of the tank this year. So shout out to him. Shout out to this team. I was just like, they're going to be dumb.
My brother texted me in the first 5 minutes of that game and said, this is the most obvious tank job that I've ever seen in my life. I'll take it. You got players tackling each other. You got guys punching the ball out on their own.
Yeah, it's like at this point, I'll take it. Like I've never really found myself rooting against the Colts except for the last couple weeks when there's like, well, the worst thing that can happen is if they start reeling off victories, right? At this point for draft position, especially trying to find a quarterback. I think the worst thing for the Colts would be going 500 or winning 6 or 7 games, like something like that. So the fact that it's like, if you're going to be bad, just be really bad and, be able to get your quarterback and build around him. Mm-hmm. So this is certainly a great position the Colts find themselves in. And really, Derek, you look at it, they're going to have their choice of anybody.
And,
really anybody.
And another thing they could do, I mean, even if you're not, let's say you don't want to go with Chicago's, right? Or maybe another team beats you to it. Trading with Arizona would not be the worst thing in the world. You're moving up one spot. Okay, you give up a second rounder, maybe a third rounder next year. I mean, because you're moving up only one spot, and Arizona's not losing anything by moving back one spot. I mean,
right.
If what reports are saying is that the Colts kind of want Will Levis, then that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, right? Somebody would take Bryce Young, somebody take CJ Stroud, then we would get Will Levis, right? And that's kind of how, it could fall. I mean, there's two different avenues that the Colts could go with in this, which again is a great spot for the Indianapolis front office and if they decide they want to end up trading up. It couldn't have gone almost more perfect today. Chicago getting that number one pick and us moving up a spot. It was definitely huge for us.
Exactly. Now, if Arizona could have actually won one of the last couple games, instead of choking them away.
Yeah, then it would have made it even better. It would
but
even more severe.
I guess you can't have it all as much as you want to. But yeah, you're right. The Colts have potentially two opportunities to get a quarterback, depending who they like, depending who would, realistically be there and what they would have to give up, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'd have to give up less to move up one spot. But if you fall in love with a CJ Stroud or Bryce Young and you're like, we got to go get him, you can do that pretty reasonably compared to what you maybe would have been able to a month ago. Right.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It's perfect. It's actually perfect. Now, obviously, there's kind of a crapshoot with the quarterback position, right? It's like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's just kind of like you got to take that risk. We've talked about this to death, Derek. You just really got to take the risk and, stick to your convictions and go with your guy and build around him. And it's probably not going to be perfect at first. It might actually suck at first. But that's unfortunately the bullet you have to bite with rookie quarterbacks at times, right? Yep. It's going to happen. So, yeah. But in terms of the future of the Colts, things are looking bright in terms of the quarterback position, the most important position. It's now up to the Colts, right, to make the right decision. Yep. And that's going to be something we're going to be talking about to death this offseason. And it feels like, Derek, a cloud has lifted now where this season is done for, thank goodness, finally, we never have to watch this team again.
Yeah, this 2022 team is definitely done and over with. Thank God. Certainly hope that, some things will change and starts with this draft order and what ends up happening this offseason. So let us know your thoughts, guys, on the Colts securing the number 4 draft pick in the NFL draft for next season. Be sure to let us know if you think that's great, if you think they need to trade up, if you think they can stay where they're at, or if you think they need to trade back for some weird reason. Because I know I've seen a lot of your Anthony Richardson takes. I've seen a lot of those. Sure, there'll be a few guys in here who will say that to us. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let us know your thoughts. Thank you so much for all the support. And as always, guys, go Colts.